When I talk about intensity on the bike, I'm talking about playing in those zones above threshold. And a lot of times what I'm trying to do is get my athlete to understand what it feels like mentally and physically to push really, really high wattage for a contained period of time. And that's what we do when we race. Minute on, minute off, 40-20s, 40, 4 on, 4 off. They put us in a place, but because that rest is so constrained, the workload is brought down. You can't go that high. Again, if I'm a 300 FTP guy and I'm doing minute on, minute off, maybe I'm pushing 380, 400 for minute on, minute off. Right? If I'm doing 4 on, 4 off, which you can't do up here. So anybody who lives at altitude, stop doing that. It doesn't work. But if you're at sea level, maybe you're pushing 350, 380. Maybe you're a beast in that zone and you're pushing 400. But again, our limits in that are right around 400 watts. Yeah, tell me when you race, you don't see 500, you don't see 600, you don't see 1,000. So we got to go to those places in training. Right? Because if we don't go to those places in training and suddenly we show up to a race and I look down and I'm holding on, trying to bridge across to a break and I see 600, I don't know that I'm ready for that, or you're in a cross race. Every time you look down, I'm again, 300 FTP guy, I'll look down and you see 0 or you see 6.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to live in those places. That's when I talk about intensity. That's what I want to do. I want to live in those places that we don't normally go to in the lab approved training zone. And I love this story. It's one of my favorite stories. Neil Henderson tells the story when he used to doing a lot of testing. He brought a mountain biker in and they were doing a VO2 max, a traditional ramp VO2 max test. And he goes, we go through the zones and he hits VO2 max. He's at VO2 max. And I say, if you want to keep going, we can keep going. And the dude did 3 more ramp steps above VO2 max. So what is that? He already reached his VO2 max. So he didn't suddenly get more oxygen in the musculature. How did he keep going? And it's being okay with that feeling. It's resilience. It's toughness. It's anaerobic capacity. It's anaerobic tolerance, lactic tolerance. It's all those things. We got to train those things for you to be able to go do that. And to me, that's the majority of the racing that the public does, right? That's cross, that's crits, that's flat road racing, that's gravel. You got to be able to, it's mountain biking to a T. You've got to be able to go there over and over and over and over and over.
The sports psychologist in you, that side is like shining through brilliantly right now. And that's always, there's always, we'll have put out blogs, whatever. And someone's like, well, physiologically, what is this exactly training and what test is there in the lab that you've shown? I'm like, dude, go do a bike race.
It doesn't matter. Right. And I think that's the huge key, right? I think we forget that. What does it feel like to sit here and just sit here? Mm-hmm. And you got to be one with that, right? You got to, it's such an overused, but such a good statement. You got to get comfortable with being wildly uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is really important. And that's why I like to do it even in the off season, because I want people to feel what that feels like all the time.
I think the comment that you made about the importance of you still being in the trenches racing, both Johnny Clark and Colby Pierce were on, and they talked about intervals where they're riding pretty damn hard and then they step it up that next step.
Yep.
And for anyone who's done a bike race, when you like see the guy or girl next to you really like, oh crap, and you just gas it a little bit more, like, yeah, that might not be the perfect interval, but being in that space and understanding when to use the watts is just, I don't think it's utilized anymore because we've become so, it's got to be in the lab, it's got to be from Steven Seiler, it's got to be from Inigo. It's like, that's not true. But
it's this classic quote from Frank Shorter, right, when he won the 72 marathon in the Olympics, and they said, Frank, you attacked at the perfect time. How did you know when to attack? He said, I just waited till I felt awful. And I knew if I felt awful, they felt just as bad, so I attacked. And I think, I'll talk to some of my athletes that get to a point. Again, Bruner had this great quote one time. We were getting ready for the cross last year, and I put minute on, minute offs on his calendar. And it was 3 sets of 5, 1 minute on, 1 minute offs. And sometimes he'll do them as just 15 straight, minute on, minute off. And again, we're at altitude. Part of the reason why we do that is because 4 minutes at altitude puts you in the box. You're really in trouble. So we break it up. Still 1-to-1. We're still getting that. But he looks at it, he calls me up and he's like, hey, I saw you have 1-to-1 on Saturday. It's not hard enough. I was like, what? He goes, I want to do something. That 1-to-1, one-on-one up to me feels pretty easy right now. Can we do one of the workouts that doesn't feel that easy? And I think it was such a great example of getting comfortable with that uncomfortable place. He's so happy in 120 to 150% of threshold that he was actually coming off of a gravel season and telling me he wanted to go to a place where he was at 160, 200, 180% of threshold.